Talk to us about how a girl who started out in sales at IBM, grew her career, became one of the only female African American CEOs in the tech world. That just didn't happen. You made it happen. And then today, your board service. It's just been an incredible career. Share with us how you grew in your career and what decisions you made that got you there.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Nancy. It's always fun to spend time with you. I learned early in life that the odds for a little Black girl in the US growing up in the 60s were just not in my favor. So I figured out early that if I wanted to get things out of this life, I'd have to figure out how to improve my odds to actually make things happen. And the strategy that I used was really to be intentional. I'd look at things, I'd research, and I'd try to figure out, okay, how do I make this happen? Because I knew if I just did what everybody else did, it didn't mean that things would happen for me. So fast forward, in high school, I had this conversation with a guidance counselor, that junior year obligatory conversation. Are you going to college? Fill out the application. Do you remember all that stuff way back when? And I said, yes, I want to go to college. My father didn't have a college degree, but education was all about go to college and get a job. And she said, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't know. I just want to keep my thermostat at 72 degrees and be able to eat out at restaurants and travel, because those were all things I couldn't do. And she said, well, what do you like to do? And I said, oh, that's easy. Clubs. I'm in everything. American Field Service. I'm in French Club, National Honor Society. I'm even a Girl Scout, but don't tell anybody. And with all those things, she said, well, clubs are like business. You pull people together and get things done. And I said, great. Then I want to go into business. And I like leading these clubs, as president of this and vice president of that. And so I said, well, I'll just go run a business then. And the people who did that were called CEOs. So I said, all right, I want to be a CEO. I was that naive and audacious. And so it was like, okay, so how do I make this happen? And literally, I spent my entire career saying, what has to be true for me to do this? And how do I make it true for me? So I started out in sales at IBM because the research showed that every single CEO at IBM started out in sales. So I didn't know what was magic about sales. It wasn't like I was in love with sales, right? I was like, all right, that's a skill set I need to go build. So I'm going to go do that. And throughout my career, Nancy, it was all the same thing. It's like, okay, now I want to be a vice president. What do I have to do? Who are they? What were their backgrounds? What were the jobs they held? Well, let me go get those jobs. And then when it came to board service, I was in my early 30s working towards becoming a CEO. And I'm like, oh, wait, there's something called a board of directors and they hire and fire the CEO? I want that job. So I added that to my list. But basically, that's really how I did it. I was just trying to do the research, figure out what works, and then try to figure out how to make it work for me.